Let's head to central Arizona, where we can escape the desert heat by getting into a remote river canyon. And the only way to get there is by rail.
They call it Arizona's other Grand Canyon, the Verde Canyon, a high desert landscape of towering red cliffs and rugged mountains. And running through it is a scenic excursion train taking travelers back in time to a place where miners once prospered. The Verde Canyon Railroad begins its journey in Clarkdale, Arizona, located 90 miles north of Phoenix and 25 miles southwest of Sedona. Since 1990, this tourist train has been making daily trips year-round along the Verde River, a protected area teeming with wildlife.
Well, the Verde Canyon is actually a very rare riparian area. We're grandfathered between two national forests, and we run along the Verde River during the trip. At times, you're actually 1,800 feet down in the red rocks of Sedona during the train trip.
The train carries 400 passengers who board at the Clarkdale station for the 4-hour round-trip excursion. As the journey begins, remnants of the area's mining industry come into view. High on the cliffs behind Clarkdale sits the old mining town of Jerome, the site of Arizona's richest copper mine.
Back in the late 1800s, Senator William Clark from Wyoming purchased the United Verde Mining Company, and he needed a way to get the ore down to Clarkdale to smelt it and out into the world, so he built the Verde Canyon Railroad. In 1911, it took 1 year for 250 men and 250 mules to construct the railroad.
Building the railroad also required tunneling through 680 feet of solid limestone.
The tunnel itself was constructed in 1911. There were a group of Swedes who traveled around the world, and all they did was blast through solid rock. And they blasted through that 680-foot tunnel, and it's only timber reinforced the last 10 feet of the tunnel.
Once completed, the Verde Canyon Railroad was in service for the next 40 years, carrying a variety of cargo and passengers.
Well, it's very interesting. When people back in the early 1900s rode the railroad, there were people on it, there were supplies, there was the copper ore, of course, and then there were a lot of wildlife. So you could ride the train for a nickel, but you might be sitting next to a chicken.
Today, the Verde Canyon Railroad is a comfortable ride with 3 levels of service. Each train has 2 coaches with standard Pullman seating, 8 first-class cars with living room comfort, and the caboose, a private luxury car. In addition, everyone on the train has access to open-air viewing cars.
We have 2 kinds of cars on our train. We have the Budd stainless steels and we have the Pullman cars. Now, the Budd stainless steels were built in the 40s and 50s, and they actually ran on the El Capitan line, which ran across country from Chicago to California.
Pulling the train is a vintage FP7 diesel locomotive, built in 1953 by General Motors for the Alaska Railroad.
Well, our FP7s are historic in their own right because I believe there are only 12 left in North America, and we have 2 of them.
Along the train route, a variety of animals can be seen along the river. But the stars of this nature show are 2 bald eagles named Black and Decker who live in the canyon.
Black and Decker are our resident eagles, and they have given us 2 babies every year for the past 9 years. And then we have a naming contest for the babies so that people can give them names every year. And Black and Decker are usually seen on every train ride.
As the train leaves the canyon, it crosses a steel bridge, and soon the excursion comes to its midpoint at Perkinsville, where the engines disengage and move to opposite ends of the train for the return trip to Clarkdale.
The Verde Canyon Railroad only travels 21 miles up the canyon with passengers, and we stop at Perkinsville. But the line itself goes another 20 miles up to Drake, which is where the freight line runs, and it connects with the Burlington Northern line.
On the trip back, passengers get a second chance to take in the view. Attendants in each car are skilled at spotting the wildlife, especially Furman Estrada, whose family lived in this canyon for 2 generations. Their homestead is now part of the National Forest.
Growing up there, the best part of my life was spent out there, and I had a couple horses there. I think a lot of memories, and what I like to do is tell people about it, sort of give them a little education on what is out there.
Riding the Verde Canyon Railroad gives people such an opportunity to see this wilderness area. You can't otherwise see it. You get to spend time with your family and friends, visit, enjoy the open air and the beautiful Arizona sky, which is amazing.
Years ago, miners and prospectors came to this place in search of hidden treasures. Today, thanks to the Verde Canyon Railroad, the treasures are in plain view in every season just beyond the tracks.